Hey guys, welcome back. Behavior Strategies for Class. This is where we empower educators with effective behavior strategies that work so you can teach. And today we're going to talk about what this year has taught us so far about student behavior. Because beneath the noise, the fatigue, the daily fires that you put out there are patterns, there are signals, and there's also moments of growth. So we're looking back at what we've seen, why it matters, and how these insights can guide you toward a steadier, more connected classroom for the rest of the year. Welcome to Behavior Strategies for Class. I am Diane Bachman, your behavior paraprofessional with over 15 years of experience working in special education. And I'm so glad you're here because I'll be teaching you about social emotional learning, behavior strategies, trauma-informed care, and more. So if you are tired of being frustrated and not knowing what to do with your students who have challenging and disruptive behavior, you're in the right place. Now, if you're ready to become more equipped to help your students learn and grow, let's listen in to today's episode. So before we get started, please hit that subscribe button, share this podcast, share this episode with other educators you know, so we can continue to learn and grow from each other. And quick side note, before we get started in this topic, I just wanted to say again, thank you for all your support throughout 2025. Like, I would not be here without you guys, and I truly appreciate that. And I want to remind you also that you guys are doing amazing work each and every day. And I hope and pray that during this winter break, you are being renewed, refreshed, refueled to hit the ground running. Hopefully not for a couple more weeks. But also, I want to let you know, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know I've been talking about working on a course create an online course for you to give you the strategies. And I just want to be honest that I am just putting that on hold right now and pivoting to a coaching program. And I am working on the curriculum for that right now. So please, heads up on that. I think it would be great to be able to give you more one-on-one support, more personal, individualized support with your students and giving you and teaching you the right tools and right strategies that you need for your specific students. So that's why I'm working on the coaching program and that curriculum. That's just a quick side note, heads up for you guys. So we are talking about what this year has taught us so far about student behavior. And ultimately, it has taught us challenging student behavior is not going away, right? It is not disappearing. It's not getting less and less. Unfortunately, we have kindergartners coming in with some just out of the control behaviors. Like, they just don't know how to behave with other kids, adults. And so my job is secure because I know student behaviors, those challenging student behaviors are not going anywhere. And so we're going to touch on some studies actually that were done this year that shows us, the research shows us that these behaviors need to be changed, which is what this whole podcast is about, right? So, I'm going to talk about 3 behavior patterns that I have seen across the classrooms. Now, I am a behavior para and I work a paraprofessional and I work in a behavior program. So, I work with students. If you have not met me or listened to this podcast before, I just wanted to give a little background that I work at an elementary school and I work in a behavior program. And this program works mostly with students who have been affected by some type of trauma in their life, which in turn has affected their behaviors in the classroom. And so I work with behavior strategies all day long with our students. And I've been working in special education for almost 2 decades. So I have been able to work with students on all levels of disabilities. But today I'm talking about 3 behavior patterns that I see, again, across all the classrooms. This is like starting from kindergarten all the way up to 5th grade. So if you will, these are the most common, per se, behaviors that I see in all the classrooms, majority of the classrooms, and that is apathy, anger, and refusal. Now, apathy, of course, is disengagement, and they don't want to engage because they're feeling overwhelmed. They're feeling this is putting them at risk if they engage or come out. And I think of one of our 4th graders that I work with, and he's kind of refusal and apathy, where he doesn't want to do any work, and he just doesn't want to engage at all. And then number 2 is anger. I mean, kindergartners so angry, and they're throwing things, kicking things, cussing out everybody. I mean, all of these things. And anger is a fight response. So somewhere they're feeling threatened. So they are fighting. They're fighting back. And maybe this has just been a tool that they have used that has benefited them in the past. And now, of course, they're in kindergarten and you can't really act that way anymore because it's affecting everybody around you. So refusal is a response to feeling powerless and confused. This I definitely see in some of our students. The refusal is they're overwhelmed, they're confused at the assignment, or sometimes the teachers give out like 3 or 4 directions at once and they just sit down and like, I don't know what it is. I can't do it. And so we usually will come in and say, okay, well, what's the first thing you need to do? Okay, let's just do that first. And actually, I'll talk about some micro interventions that you can do for these 3 behaviors that you see. So again, apathy. They don't want to engage because they feel it's risky. They're feeling overwhelmed as well. Anger, it's a fight response. For some reason, they're feeling threatened. And refusal is a response to feeling powerless and confused. So, some micro interventions that you can do to help your students when they're dealing with these behaviors is apathy. Check in with that student, like before school starts, the middle of the day, or when they're at the point where they're apathetic about doing their work, and just checking in and being like, well, what do you need? How can we help you? I really found that works well, especially with this 4th grader that I mentioned earlier. He shuts down. Obviously, the teacher has all these other students. At that time, she can't sit there and try and figure out exactly what's going on with that student or how. So there's another paraeducator in there as well, and she helps him. And, I've just gone up to him and be like, hey, buddy, like, I want to help you. Do you want to come sit maybe at the back table and we can walk through this? And he'll usually shake his head yes, and then he'll come back and I'll be like, okay, so, where are you at in this process, whatever it is that they're working on? And he's usually pretty responsive to that. And like I said, I understand, like, you as the teacher, you have all of these other students. So it's hard for you to be able to come in and be like, hey, what's going on at this moment? I mean, now sometimes you may be able to say, hey, what do you need to get started? I have seen some teachers do that and then have like some of her students come back to a back table in the classroom and then be able to help a couple of those students who are being apathetic, who aren't doing anything, and be able to take a little bit of time to be one-on-one with them. And that seems to help. Now, I'm not saying, obviously, you're able to do that all the time, but if you're able to get some type of one-on-one connection there, it's really super helpful, and it really does help them to be more engaged. So as much as you can, or get some other support to come in and help those students, that really does make a difference. And checking in, like I said, check in with them in the morning. Hey, it's great to see you. Or if you know, like, there's a certain subject that they struggle with, check in before you start the lesson if you're able to, and just say, how can I help you be successful, while we're doing writing or whatever it is. Another micro intervention that you can do for anger is when that student is showing this anger. Now, sometimes it's just in yelling and screaming at you, maybe, or maybe at peers, or they decide to throw their pencil across the room, or throw papers or tear up papers, dump over their chair. And really, one of the most important things to do is for you to stay calm, for you to stay regulated. Because ultimately, they're going to feel that, and they're going to sense that, and they're going to come back down, de-escalate. So as long as you stay regulated, and then just offer them space. Now, obviously, if they're hurting anybody or hurting themselves, you've got to get other support or other interventions in there and help that kid right away. But if they are just, like, I've seen some students just get angry, throw their pencil across the room, and then just sit down at their desk and they're just mad. That's okay. Give them some space. Give them a couple minutes, and then, come back around to him and say, hey, are you ready, either to talk or ready to start working or ready, I don't know, whatever it is that you need them to do at that moment. But definitely giving that student some space and staying regulated is super important and will hopefully de-escalate the situation faster and sooner rather than later. And I have seen that work as well. And like I said, anger doesn't have to be a huge aggression or a huge outward display of anger. Sometimes it is just tearing up their paper and now they're just sitting at their desk. I've seen that. Like I said, I've seen kids just throw a pencil. Sometimes I've seen students just lay their chair on the ground and then just stand there next to it, like with their arms folded. Well, yeah, they're angry, but they knew they didn't want to get, I don't know if in trouble or make a bigger scene. I'm not really sure why. I've never asked a student that. Like, why'd you just lay it down? But anyways, and that's a moment. You're going to stay calm, keep doing whatever you're doing, give them a minute, and then circle back and come to them and say, okay, buddy, are you ready? please pick up your chair and get your pencil and we're going to do whatever. And usually that works. Unless, of course, they escalate even more. And then, like I said, you're going to get more support and, make sure that student and everybody else is safe. Now, the micro intervention for refusal is what I've kind of talked about earlier already, is breaking down those tasks into easier steps or smaller steps. So refusal, like I said, I've seen students, they just get overwhelmed because, you're teaching, you're on a roll, and you've just given like 3 or 4 directions, and that student at that time just can't get it all in. And so they're sitting down now and they're like, well, forget it, because I don't even know what she said. She's not going to tell me. And so they just refuse to start. Or it's something that they don't like to do. Like a lot of our students struggle with writing, and so they just refuse to do it. They don't want to do it. And the task, of course, can be very overwhelming, especially if they're working on an essay. The older kids, sometimes even looking at a worksheet seems like a lot for our younger kids. And so they just refuse and they just sit down. Our one student would actually just leave the classroom. We've had other students just sit in the hallway. They don't want to do it. And so being able to come alongside and ask them, okay, so what can we do first? Like, what's one thing we can do first to work on whatever this assignment is? So being able to break down those tasks and assignments into smaller steps will help when they shut down. It will help. So if maybe that student hates math, they don't want to do it, like they're overwhelmed with whatever maybe math word problems you're going over, then if you're able to break down what are the steps they need to do so that they have that tool with them to get started on their work. So then you're not having to repeat it every 5 minutes. So you have maybe like a little cheat sheet per se for that student who gets overwhelmed when it's time for math. These are just little micro interventions that you can do to help your students succeed. Because we know sometimes they just get in the overwhelm of little things. So if you can do little things to help them, that is going to help them be successful and hopefully take some stress off of you as well. An example of this that we did for one of our students was we made a little morning checklist and then an afternoon checklist. Because in the morning he would always forget to take out his folder, take out his homework. And then in the afternoon he had to bring his folder home, all the things he needed to take home. And so we just wrote down the lists so he could see it every day and know, okay, in the morning. And he will use a marker and check off when he does those things. So that really helps our student. And that helps you as well, because like I said, you're not constantly repeating what needs to be done and reminding them, what are you doing? Why do you. So being able to even just point to his desk and say, hey, buddy, where did you do this one already? And then you walk away. They see it. He sees it. And he's like, oh, yeah. And then he'll go do whatever it is. Because he has a hard time sometimes staying focused on what needs to be done. So we made those smaller steps, those specific tasks that needed to be done, made them, laminated them, taped them to his desk, and they work out really well for him. So that is an example of that micro intervention that you can do for your students. So I also want to share some studies that were done on student behavior, because this just again shows us, proves to us the importance of teaching behavior strategies, in teaching more positive behaviors for your students. And these are evidence-based strategies that I teach you, and these are also research-backed. So one of the studies done was the psychological impact of behavior on student learning at high school and college levels, and that was by the Department of Education in Long Island, New York. And that just basically talked about the impact of positive behavior and how it impacts learning, the engagement that a student does, as opposed to the negative behaviors of disruption and disengagement, and how that affects their learning at those higher levels. So again, it reminds us and shows us the importance of teaching these behavior strategies at the elementary level. Like I said, I work at an elementary school, and I feel like we are helping to lay that academic learning foundation for these students, so that when they get to high school and college, they're going to know, like when I'm feeling overwhelmed and, I have the syllabus of this, what I need to do for this class. Okay, the first semester I need to do this. Then they can learn and say, okay, well, how can I break this down so I know what steps to take, and I'm not overwhelmed with this huge syllabus list of things that I need to do for the whole year or for the whole semester. So these are helping them. And again, this study shows the impact of behavior on student learning. The other study that was done was called Relationship Between Behavior and Academic Performance, and that was in the IRE journal, and it talked about behavior characteristics. So some of those was like attendance, being on time, the organization skills, the study skills, the study habits that students learn. These are all things that we are teaching them at the elementary level. And of course, these should be carried on, all throughout their academic career, through middle school and high school. You are just reminding them, okay, this is what needs to be done. This is the folder you need. This is the binder you need. And then they get it done. Like, you're not as hands-on like in the elementary level. But of course, these habits just build on each other as they go through school. So again, this study in the journal, IRE journal, reiterates the importance of teaching those behavior characteristics to give them that foundation so they can succeed at those higher levels of learning. And then the last study I looked at from this year is called Understanding Student Behavior Engagement, the Importance of Student Interaction with Peers and Teachers. I love this one, and it's from the Journal of Educational Research, because it shows the importance, again, of a strong relationship with the teacher and with their peers, and how that affects their learning, that the engagement that they have, to know they're cared for. These are all factors that affect their learning and their academic success. And again, this study actually talks about disengagement, engagement, and passive engagement. So there are different levels that students are engaged, and how the relationships affect those levels of engagement. It's fascinating, but I love these because, again, it is research-based evidence-based strategies, everything that I have been teaching you and telling you for the last few years, the importance of those relationships with their teachers, the importance of teaching those positive behavior strategies and how it truly affects their learning, not only at the elementary level, but all the way through their academic career and in college. And if we're not teaching them at the elementary level and helping them carry that through, they're in college like lost for sure. Because we have to be involved. We have to buy in and know the importance of connecting and caring enough to push through that challenging behavior of those students that you struggle with, that those students that you probably don't like and would prefer not to be in your classroom. I get it. But they need you to fight for them. They need you to show them, to teach them these strategies, the importance of being engaged and doing their learning. So important. So, again, to remind you, this year has taught us, this calendar year has taught us that challenging student behavior is not going anywhere. They need you to help them change that challenging behavior into more positive behavior, because that is going to help them succeed in their academic future. So thanks so much, guys, for listening. We are going to do great next year in 2026. I can't believe it already. It is going to be here tomorrow night. And I wish everybody a very happy new year. Lots of love and laughter and positivity and God's love to shine through, to know that you are seen, you are valued, you are loved. Thanks so much, guys. Happy New Year! Thanks so much for listening. I truly appreciate your support. And if I have encouraged you, motivated you to continue to learn, to support your students, even better, to help them strive in your classroom, please leave a review, hit that subscribe button so that others can see they can learn and grow here as well. Thank you.